All right. Thanks everyone for joining us for our June website chat. It's actually been a little while since we've had a website chat, given MLA in April and a little hiatus in May. And we will take July off as we traditionally do. So we do have quite a bit of content to go through today. We are all great Zoom users at this point, but it's always helpful to have just a little bit of a reminder as we come together in our online community. Colette is available to help monitor chat, but we always encourage you to unmute yourselves and ask questions as well. So some of the topics that we want to cover today, some staffing updates from the State Library, a reminder that our public library standards reports are due, and some great information that Rebecca has prepared about those. We're talking about reminding people about the availability of support for creating digital opportunity plans and some work at the State Library to support digital opportunity programs. Want to talk a little bit about our trunk program and a survey that's available, a little bit about our adoption of the state's ServiceNow help desk platform, updates from the State Library Commission, and a few other updates and reminders. So I wanted to start off by welcoming Gil Holsmuth as our Montana Library Network technical support. Gil has been with us since the middle of April. He replaced Bobby as the MLN tech support when Bobby took the position of our lifelong learning librarian. I think some of you probably had the opportunity to meet Gil in April, but this is the first chance that we've had to introduce him to you in our website chat. We hired Gil from the Lewis and Clark Library, where he was in public service, and he's just fitting in so well in our staff at the State Library. I think if you've had a chance to interact with him, you know that he offers just really great support, and he's just a warm, caring, funny individual. So Gil, we're so glad to have you on board.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Jenny. And you're always so good at introductions.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gil.
And just a reminder that Gil is here to support all of you in your work with Aspen, as well as work with our other different kinds of statewide projects. So feel free to send him a help desk ticket or pick up the phone and give him a call. For those of you who haven't heard, we hired Kara into one of our statewide consulting librarian positions. Two of our consultants, Pam Henley and Suzanne Reimer, retired this spring. Suzanne is technically still on board with us for another couple of weeks, but she's enjoying some very well-deserved time off. We went through recruitments for those two positions, and we hired Kara into one. That's part of the shuffling that's been going on with the staffing here at the State Library. So Kara is officially in that role now. The third consultant that we hired starts on July 8th. It's Corey Sloan. You might know Corey from her work with the Bozeman Public Library. So we're really excited to have her. And then the other hire that we made, this person will also start on July 8th, is Savannah Sill. She is filling the position that Kara left when she took the consultant role as our MLN coordinator. So she will be providing consortia support and supporting our various statewide projects. She also will supervise Gil in his role as the MLN tech. We hired Savannah from the National Guard, where she's been working to support youth and families in the military through the National Guard. And we were just incredibly impressed with her when we interviewed her a couple of weeks ago. So we look forward to both Corey and Savannah starting in July, and we'll certainly introduce them to you and look forward to opportunities for them to travel to your libraries and have you get to know them a little bit more in their roles at the State Library. We should be so lucky. That always reminds me of Bruce Noel. Whenever we have the opportunity to hire fantastic staff. He would always say, we should be so lucky. And we should be so lucky to have such great state library staff and continue to be able to hire great people onto our team. So some updates on the State Library Commission business that has occurred over the last couple of meetings. We've really been focused on kind of budgets at this time of the year. Business that they have concluded after their April and May meetings involved discussions around legislative budget requests. The commission did decline to support any of our budget requests, and so the state library will be basically moving forward through the next legislative session, assuming that we would have a flat budget relative to our current biennium budget. And then other business that the State Library Commission took in April was to determine to not move forward with an agreement with the Trust for Montana Libraries. We had been operating under a memorandum of agreement that needed to be renewed with them. And at this time, the State Library Commission has determined that we would not move forward with that kind of agreement. We'll invite the trust to participate in a future website chat, but if you didn't see it, Bruce Newell sent an email out to Wired earlier this week, recommitting the trust's commitment to support funding for grants directly to libraries, including funding for statewide programs. They're also committed to helping libraries to promote the work of libraries around Montana. They have some organizational work to do given the change in relationship status with the state library, and that work is also underway. And then finally, at this last meeting, the State Library Commission adopted our operating budget. They also adopted the FY25 plans of service that were proposed by the federations at your spring meetings. The commission remains very committed to supporting funding for trustee training in particular, and they were pleased to see that continuing amount of funding, $4,000 per federation, is available to those federations for trustee training. And then one of the things I'm most excited about is that the commission adopted the final administrative rules to amend the state aid formula to include tribal college libraries. We've talked about that administrative rule before. Essentially, what happens now is that there's a total of appropriation for state aid of a little more than $500,000. We will work with the governor's budget office each year to determine tribal enrollment and apply the 50 cents per capita revenue amount to that total state aid appropriation. That amount will be distributed to the tribal college libraries that participate or provide public library services and meet the public library standards. And then the remainder will be distributed to other public libraries according to our state aid formula. So this was the last legal step that needed to happen in order for tribal college libraries to be eligible to receive state aid. It's something that we have been talking about and working towards for 5 years. And that's a major win for us. I think it's a major accomplishment for the Montana library community. And I'm just really, really thrilled that we're at this point. I did want to make you all aware that, as I mentioned, the commission adopted our FY25 budget. Within our digital library, we are experiencing a revenue shortfall, which means that we've had to implement some one-time belt tightening to help absorb that revenue shortfall. And it is impacting programs across the state library. I think probably where you'll see this most obviously is in reduced spending for content in Montana Library to Go. And I know Kara has communicated that to libraries. specifically, we have reduced funding for the magazine content within Montana Library to Go. And I know there's some discussions about whether or not libraries may be able to absorb those costs. We did lose Dave Colomaria. He took a position at the Historical Society, and we're going to be delaying hiring for that position while we can absorb some vacancy savings from that position. We aren't going to have any funding for digitization for the history portal this year. And then we also have limited funding for state government publications. We do hope that this is a short-term revenue shortfall. It's occurring in our geospatial information account. Happy to answer more questions about why we're experiencing that shortfall, but it does mean that at least for this fiscal year, we're going to have to tighten our belts and reduce spending across the agency until some of the revenue rebounds for those programs. Let me stop and ask if there's any questions. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Wanted to remind you again that the state library through the end of this month has resources available to help any libraries who may be creating digital opportunity plans that are then required for libraries to receive some of the federal Digital Equity Act funds that may be coming to your communities through your local governments. Suzanne offered a really helpful webinar to provide more information about these resources and the services that are available to help you. I also wanted to let you know, let's see if I can, whoop, I didn't want to play that, sorry. I wanted to let you all know about some project proposals that we submitted as part of the overall state of Montana's application for Digital Equity Act funds. The Department of Administration here in Helena under the governor's office is responsible for receiving and expending the Broadband and Digital Equity Act funds that were appropriated by Congress to each state. And Montana submitted its application at the end of May for digital equity, or as Montana's referring to it, digital opportunity funding, which is funding that's intended to support internet adoption, digital literacy, and other kinds of services to encourage adoption of the internet more broadly. Some of the projects that the state library proposed for funding include funding to help us continue to upgrade the Wi-Fi network hardware within libraries. We've been able to do that with a number of libraries thus far with some of our COVID-related funding. We've asked for funding to be able to do an additional 60 libraries. We've asked for funding to update the broadband study that we originally conducted in 2019. I know many of you participated in that study, and that's been a really, really helpful resource to help us think about how we better support broadband and internet adoption to and through our libraries. It's 5 years old now, so I think it's time for us to update that study, and it would be great to have some funding to do so. We asked for funding for access to the LinkedIn Learning platform that would be available to all libraries and their patrons for a 5-year period. And I think most of you are familiar with LinkedIn Learning. It's a great resource for job-related training and services. We asked for funding that would replace all of the public access and staff computers in public and tribal college libraries. Many of you know that over the years, we've received grant funds from the Gates Foundation and from the Broadband Technology Opportunity Grant Program to help provide computer upgrades. This would be an opportunity for us to again upgrade computers in libraries. We did ask for funding to continue the hotspot program, albeit at a reduced capacity. We know we're hearing from some libraries that are telling us that they think the model has reached its useful lifespan, but other libraries do find value in the program for their communities. So we've asked for some continued funding for that hotspot program. And then finally, we asked for funding for technology to help libraries monitor your network health, making sure that the network is up and operating, and that if there's any issues, you understand what's causing those issues. This service would also help us better track Wi-Fi usage for our public library statistics. Again, these were all proposals that were submitted through the Department of Administration's application to the feds at the end of May, and we should know what, if any, of these projects will be funded by the end of August or so. Any questions about digital opportunity planning or digital opportunity funding? All right. We'll just take a quick break. We've got a lot of content that we're going through. If you have any questions, feel free again to raise your hand or submit them in the chat. Again, a reminder that your public library standards reports are due to us by July 25th. There was a really helpful webinar demonstration from Rebecca last month. So really appreciate Rebecca putting that information together. And again, our staff are available to help you with any questions you might have about submitting your public library standards report. I've got Bobby with us today. We're asking for more information about the use of our trunks and how we can make sure that those are most effective for you. Bobby, I'll let you jump in and talk about what information you hope to gain through the survey.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I just put the link into the chat, and this is to go to the Lifelong Learning Trunk Survey. What we're trying to do is determine the level of interest in the trunk program and to also talk about how we might work together to make the storage part of it work, because as you know, we have moved into a smaller space with less storage capacity, and we want to keep this going for you if you want to keep it going. But we also want to make sure that you have capacity, and just to kind of see what everyone can do. And then that'll give me the data points in order to figure out what our options are. There are some folks who have been requesting new trunks. There's people who really like the old trunks. So overall, we just want to know what you want, how we might provide it in a better way, and how we might all work together to make that happen. So please do fill out that survey. No response is still a response.
Thanks, Bobby. All right. Next, we wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we're migrating off of our Zoho platform onto ServiceNow. ServiceNow is really intended to become really a single point of entry for Montana citizens who are accessing information from the state of Montana. So it's a requirement that we move to this new platform. It's provides help desk services as well as our knowledge-based. Most of our service platforms have already migrated off of Zoho onto ServiceNow. The shared catalog, however, is one of the biggest services that we support through Zoho, and we're still in the process of migrating. We hope to have that available by the end of June. Amy, is there anything else you want folks to be aware of about the migration to ServiceNow?
Yeah, they can, if you are a shared catalog member and you have questions for us, you can open tickets in ServiceNow. Right now, you just click on the link that Colette provided and that will take you to the page. You can see a little screenshot up here. Our knowledge base has been moved completely over and you can open tickets in ServiceNow, and we are responding to those tickets there. The things we do have left is the in progress tickets that are still in Zoho. We just have such high enough volume that there are ones that aren't finished yet. So starting next week, if you open a ticket with us in Zoho, we are going to immediately move it over to ServiceNow, just so that it's not still in Zoho when our contract with them ends. And we will, over the next week, be moving any tickets that we haven't managed to wrap up that are still in process. We'll be moving those over to ServiceNow. So if you have open tickets with us, those will be getting transferred to the new help desk over the next week. So we can finish that up and pull our final statistics out of Zoho by the end of the month.
Amy, could you talk a little bit about the relationship with ServiceNow and Okta?
Yes. So ServiceNow is the help desk part of the system that you can access. Okta is more of a user registration, it's the login for all state services. So you can open a ticket. To open a ticket, the state requires that you have a Okta account. And so you probably already have one if you've done anything in Aspen over the past couple of years, because we switched our login process on Aspen, the library directory, event calendar, and CE tracker to Okta a couple years ago. It used to be ePass, now it's Okta. So if you already have an Okta account that you use to log in and handle your stuff there, you can use that same sign-in and then use it to submit tickets. If you don't have an Okta account, when you click onto our knowledge base or our service support page, there's a link there that both has instructions for setting up an Okta account and the link to go and register, and then you can submit tickets through that form. And that will provide the same sort of functionality that Zoho had, where you can look at your open tickets and see if there's been responses. They will still come to you through email, and you can email back to them in response. But if you want to see that, log in and see your tickets, you can do that with your Okta account. Was that everything you wanted me to cover, Colette? Okay, but yeah,
No.
So the single sign-on for Okta, but there's steps on how to do it on that MSL service support page.
Thanks, Amy. All right. Any questions about any of the comments or discussion that we brought forward today? Colette, do you have a recap of our questions from earlier? How's summer reading and wind responses?
I shared those results
Okay.
very briefly, but I can share those again. So it looks like actually they're are quite a few that say that there is no summer reading.
Okay,
Or not yet. And it looks like the majority are saying, yes, the wind is blowing, or it hasn't quite started yet. So thank you for participating in those polls. We love data.
we love data.
Um, yeah,
Great.
and I'm not seeing any other questions right now, but don't be shy. Enter those questions in chat. We have a few more things to cover here before we're done, but as you're thinking about questions, please don't hesitate to just put those in the chat, or we'll circle back to you here in just a few moments.
Great. So just an update on some upcoming learning opportunities from the state library. A webinar about enhanced records. And let me just say that as a former cataloger, thinking about Montana subject headings just warms my heart. And then I'm really excited for you to have an opportunity to participate in a webinar with Bryce Maxwell, the coordinator of our Natural Heritage Program, about using iNaturalist to identify and update information for our Montana Field Guide. This is just really proving to be a very, very powerful kind of community-based resource for observing and submitting information about our natural environments. And as always, be sure and check our events calendar for updates and additional learning opportunities. As always, like Colette said, we love data. We want to be able to continually improve upon these kinds of learning opportunities. So we hope you'll take our survey for today. And then I just wanted to conclude with a tribute to Lisa Mecklenburg-Jackson. Those of you who know her know what a huge hole that has been left in our library community with her death on May 27th. I think the first time that I met Lisa was in 2003, and knowing that she was an attorney and a very active member of the Montana library community, it might not surprise you to know that that time we were working on the Montana Library Association bylaws, and we, none of us really love working on bylaws, but she took on that kind of work with such dedication. And she was such a huge supporter and champion of the Montana library community. We also remember her for her work with the Sheila Cates Scholarship. Sheila was an employee of the state library many years ago, and she also died of cancer. And I don't think any of us will think about the Sheila Cates Scholarship Program and the year after year of just fun and funny and lighthearted opportunities to raise funds for that scholarship program. Lisa will be truly, truly missed. If you haven't heard, her memorial is going to be on July 7th at the Missoula Public Library beginning in the afternoon. As always, I really appreciate you joining us on a Friday afternoon in June. We'll hang out for a little while longer, and I hope you enjoy your summer.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Our next session is in August. So I forgot to change the date on the slide, but I'll change it before I post those resources to Aspen. I did put a link to a little short explainer video about how to download the slides and other handouts from any of the events in Aspen, and we do hope that you will claim your credit for today's session. It's so glad to be together. And thank you, Jenny, so much for talking about and honoring Lisa. As you said, she was such a dynamic and lively and fun part of our community. And so we will miss her very, very much.
And just a reminder that Tracy and I are going to be working on a resolution to honor Lisa for MLA. That seems so fitting because Lisa was always the one who wrote resolutions for MLA. So if you have any little reminiscence or a reflection about her, what she meant to you, be sure and email me by next week so we can think about how we can include those remembrances in that resolution.
That will be great. Thanks so much, everyone. We'll conclude our recording now, and we'll hang out for just a couple more minutes in case you have any questions.